Hi everyone, welcome to Breastfeeding with Sarah. I'm Sarah, your lactation consultant. Today we're going to be learning about what to expect with breastfeeding in the first 2 weeks after the birth. Your whole breastfeeding experience can be largely impacted by how well things go in these first 2 weeks. In this video, we'll learn how to know if your baby's getting enough to eat, how to bring in a full milk supply, and when you need to get more support if things are not on track. We'll learn by seeing pictures and videos of real moms and babies who are also learning to breastfeed. Come join us. One of the most important things I like to share about learning to breastfeed is that it is a social learned behavior for the mother, and it's a natural and innate reflex for the baby. It's a myth that new mothers will automatically know how to breastfeed a baby. It's a skill that's meant to be learned through a lifetime of seeing other mothers breastfeed in the community. So if we haven't learned it that way, we really benefit from the support to learn once our babies are born. Conversely, babies are born knowing how to breastfeed. They have a set of newborn reflexes and physical capacities that help them be able to latch well on their own if they're put in the right position on mom, and they can give the cues to help guide the process of building a full milk supply. This video is meant to be teaching only those with healthy, full-term babies. If your baby is sick or was born preterm, you'll need more specific support tailored to meet your baby's needs. Your breastfeeding journey begins immediately after birth, so let's begin there. Right when your baby is born, have them placed skin to skin on your body and left there with you for the first couple of hours. Have all non-urgent procedures put off until after they breastfeed first. A healthy baby can be examined by the birth team while they're still laying on you. The first hour after delivery is called the golden hour due to baby's unique neurological state and ready ability to latch. Feeding cues peak in the first hour after birth. Allow baby's natural feeding reflexes to initiate the first breastfeeding. They will give feeding cues and root around, using their ability to move on your body to find the breast and latch on. Prioritize keeping baby skin to skin with you much of the time for the first few days. This helps babies share their feeding cues with you and nurse often enough. Continue to do frequent feedings. Baby will need to be nursing about 8 to 12 times per 24 hours, which will fall in the range of about every 1 to 3 hours. You don't need to be timing your baby's feedings, but in general, they should be feeding for about 10 to 20 minutes on each breast. Make sure baby is latching properly so it's comfortable for you. If the latch is painful, it needs close attention to correct. Baby should be latching deep onto the breast so it is pain-free. The latch should not be shallow, painful, or cause any nipple damage. A poor shallow latch can also limit the amount of milk the baby gets, causing poor weight gain for the baby and reducing your milk supply as well. I'm not going to go into the details of latching in this video because I made a comprehensive video about this already that you can watch. See my video for everything you need to know about the latch called How to Latch Your Baby. Let's talk about what's happening with your milk. Your breasts begin making the first milk, called colostrum, in the second trimester of pregnancy. Colostrum is the milk that's present in your breasts when baby first begins to breastfeed and is there through around day 3 postpartum when your mature milk comes in. Colostrum components are continuously changing and are dynamic. They're high in protein, antibodies, and antioxidants. Colostrum is extremely important for your baby's health. It's like a first immunization. So the milk you're making during the first few days after the birth is called colostrum. Your baby's stomach size is perfectly matching the amount of milk you're making, so they don't need any other food other than the colostrum. Your baby's stomach is only the size of a hazelnut in the first 2 days when your milk is in the colostrum phase. Going home from the hospital or birth center typically happens in the first couple of days. Once you're back home, it's helpful to set expectations for everyone that you will still need to be keeping your baby close to you, and you will be resting when your baby sleeps. This allows you to continue to nurse baby frequently following their feeding cues. Let's learn a little more about feeding cues. Feeding cues are baby's way of letting you know it's time to nurse. The cues are subtle, so pay attention to your baby's body language. They will stick their tongue out, move their mouth around, or bring their hand to their mouth to cue that they're needing to eat again. Sometimes they try to crawl in your body and peck at your chest to let you know they are hungry. Do not make your baby wait to nurse on a schedule. Rather, feed them following the rhythm of their feeding cues, as this will help them not lose too much weight and not get too jaundiced. Limiting the number of nursing sessions can prevent your breasts from getting stimulated enough to bring in a healthy milk supply. Your milk supply should increase sometime between day 2 and day 4 after the birth, typically on day 3. This is happening because of the hormonal changes occurring after the birth. The placenta hormones that left your body at the birth have now totally flushed out of your system. And so this allows the milk-making hormone that your body makes, called prolactin, to bind to your breasts to make more milk. This is commonly known as your milk coming in, and the scientific term is lactogenesis 2. The prolactin hormone makes you make more milk, and it's stimulated by baby nursing. Oxytocin is the hormone that makes the milk eject from the breast. This is how milk lets down. It's stimulated by baby nursing and also just by you thinking of your baby. This is again an example of how your milk supply is supposed to match with your baby's body, as their stomach also grows on day 3, now to the size of a walnut. You will know when your mature milk comes in when your breasts get noticeably heavy and full with milk. There may also be veins becoming more visible under the skin of your breasts. If you don't notice this change by day 5 after the birth, seek in-person support from your medical provider or a lactation consultant. When your milk comes in, there may be a 24 to 48 hour period of engorgement, which is when your breasts are very full of milk. Work on getting the latch deep enough, as frequent and effective drainage of the breast is key to getting through this temporary engorgement time. See the video I'll be making on how to manage engorgement to learn more on this topic. As baby feeds effectively at the breast, you will see their jaw moving, showing their rapid suckles followed by longer swallows of milk. When baby is drinking well, their swallows happen after every few suckles. When babies are not drinking well, they have many more rapid suckles and many fewer longer swallows. You can tell when a baby is swallowing when their jaw drops lower and pauses to gulp the milk. Sometimes you can hear the swallow. Another good sign that your baby is eating well is by tracking how many diapers they are making. Keep track of how many urine and stool diapers baby is having. The stool color and consistency will change as baby gets more breast milk. Stool diapers will be black and sticky meconium stool for the first few days. Stool diapers turn to transitional stool by around day 3 or 4. These are looser and lighter brown or dark green. Stool diapers should turn fully golden yellow, looking like mustard on sesame seeds by day 5. This is pure breast milk stool. The number of diapers they have each day is important to track. In the first week, your baby should have as many urine and stool diapers as how many days old they are. This means that on day 1 after the birth, they should have 1 wet and 1 stool diaper. On day 2 after the birth, they should have 2 of each, and so on. After the end of the first week, babies may have more variability with the number of stools, but they should always consistently continue to have at least 6 urinations per 24 hours. Your baby needs a weight check at 3 to 5 days old to ensure they haven't lost too much weight. This is the most important and reliable way to know if they're getting enough to eat. And baby also needs a jaundice check at 3 to 5 days old to ensure they aren't too jaundiced. Your doctor, midwife, or nurse should be seeing you to do these weight and jaundice checks. Jaundice is a normal condition babies have in the first week after the birth that causes their skin and eyes to get yellow. It can cause babies to be sleepy and can be very dangerous for the baby if the levels get too high in their body. Give extra attention to stimulate baby to finish a feeding. Also, waking them for feedings may be necessary. Babies typically should not be sleeping more than 3 hours at a time in the first 2 weeks. When babies get enough to eat, that helps them reduce the risk of them getting too jaundiced. If baby won't wake for a feeding or is sleepy during feedings and only nurses for a few minutes before falling back to sleep, they may be getting too jaundiced. High jaundice levels can make them not be effective feeders at the breast, which can lead to the jaundice levels going higher. This is a red flag and requires medical attention. Babies sleep a lot in the newborn period, but should wake to feed 8 to 12 times in 24 hours and should have at least some brief periods of being awake and alert between feedings. Once your milk comes in the first few days, the only way to keep your milk supply up is through supply and demand, which is how your milk supply is going to be calibrated, and this happens in the early weeks of breastfeeding. Supply and demand means that your body will only continue to make as much milk as the amount of milk that is emptied from the breasts. Draining your breasts makes more milk. Leaving your breasts full lowers milk supply. Another way to look at how milk supply is built is by looking at the hormones. Prolactin is the milk-making hormone, and your levels are high right after the birth, but decline rapidly if the breasts are not stimulated regularly. This graph shows how the prolactin levels decline after the birth, but will peak with every nursing session, which leads to a higher prolactin baseline level, which is needed to keep making more milk. Full, effective, and frequent nursings are what builds a full milk supply and milk supply capacity. Nurse your baby about 8 to 12 times per 24 hours, which is about every 2 to 3 hours. But there may also be periods of normal cluster feeding every 1 hour for some parts of the day, and this should be allowed. However, continuous feeding every hour around the clock is a red flag that baby may actually not be getting enough milk at each feeding, and requires follow-up with a lactation professional. Avoid giving baby pacifiers for at least the first 5 to 6 weeks. This is because pacifiers mask baby from showing you their feeding cues. This can lead to your baby not getting enough breastfeeding sessions in to gain enough weight. It also is high risk for stunting your ability to build a full milk supply. Pacifiers may also teach your baby to nipple feed and use their tongues wrong. A pacifier given in the first month of breastfeeding can lead to a painful or pinchy latch, poor weight gain in baby, and low milk supply for mom. Let's talk about breastfeeding at night. You may have heard the question, is your baby sleeping through the night yet? This comes from our formula feeding culture. In reality, breast milk is digested in about 90 minutes. So breastfed babies need to wake to feed more frequently than formula-fed babies do. It is not the biological norm nor healthy for babies to be sleeping through the night, formula-fed or not. Keep your baby close by so you can notice their feeding cues so they can eat and fall back to sleep with minimal interruption to your sleep. Nighttime breastfeeding stimulates your body's milk-making hormone prolactin to rise the most effectively at this time, and this helps you make more milk. Breastfeed your baby through the night, waking them to nurse after 2 to 3 hours at first if they don't wake to feed this often on their own. Breastfeeding through the night is key to baby getting enough to eat to gain weight, and key for building a full milk supply for the long term. Babies tend to naturally be programmed to know this and may want to nurse more frequently at night than they do in the day in the early weeks. This is normal. Babies are not meant to sleep through the night without eating. See the video I'll be making on surviving the night with your breastfed baby to learn more. To review, we've learned that how well your milk supply gets stimulated in the early weeks of breastfeeding sets your long-term milk supply capacity. So it's important to have things well on track in the early weeks. Now, a lot of people wonder where breast pumps and bottles fit into breastfeeding in the early weeks. Here's what we know. To support breastfeeding going well, avoid doing any pumping or bottle feeding your pumped milk to the baby for at least the first 4 to 6 weeks, unless there are breastfeeding challenges and you're advised by a medical or lactation professional to be pumping. If you're having challenges with the latch, your milk supply, or baby's weight gain, you should be seeing a lactation professional and being advised on a pumping and supplementing plan specific to meet your and your baby's needs. For more information on this, see the video I'll be making on if you need to pump and supplement to learn more. Conversely, unnecessary pumping and supplementing can cause an interruption in the normal process of learning to latch and building a full milk supply. And giving baby bottles of formula just to top them off, or so it can be a substitute for a nursing session, can have a serious negative impact on your milk supply. Your milk supply will downregulate with any supplemental feedings baby gets unless you are pumping every time baby gets a bottle. Your baby should have another weight check at 2 weeks old. They should be back to their birth weight at this time. This is an important milestone for baby and a clear indicator of how breastfeeding is going. At 2 weeks old, baby's stomach is now the size of a chicken egg. Let's review what we learned about how to know if breastfeeding is going well in the first 2 weeks. Baby should meet all criteria. Baby is breastfeeding exclusively. Baby breastfeeds at least 8 to 12 times per 24 hours. Baby is able to sleep or appears satiated after nursing. Baby's weight at 3 to 5 days old should be less than 10% below their birth weight. Baby should be gaining weight after 5 days old. Babies should be back to their birth weight by no later than 14 days old. Babies should be gaining weight at the rate of at least 1 ounce per day after 5 days old. Some red flags to watch out for are if you have sore or damaged nipples or painfully engorged breasts after nursing, if your baby is too sleepy to finish feedings or does not wake to feed, if you're nursing baby less than 8 times per 24 hours, if your baby nurses continuously around the clock or is inconsolable between feedings, if your baby is not meeting the minimum diaper goals for their age, if your breasts did not go through a fullness phase where you felt your milk come in, if your baby is not meeting the expected weight gain goals, if your baby is being fed any formula. If any of these red flags are present, it may be a complex situation that will have to be evaluated in person. Contact your medical provider right away and seek support from a lactation consultant as well for an assessment and advice. See the links below on how to find a lactation consultant in your area. Remember that during your breastfeeding journey, you need care and support in addition to caring for the baby. We are not meant to do this alone. We all need support, especially in the postpartum period. It can take all of your time and energy in the early weeks to recover from the birth and feed your baby. Have family and friends help with all the other chores and activities and give you acknowledgement for the great work you're doing. It can be helpful to know that the hard work put in at the beginning of the breastfeeding journey pays off, and it is much easier in the long run. Watch my video on why we choose to breastfeed to learn more. Please like this video and subscribe to be a part of the Breastfeeding with Sarah community. Wishing you a happy breastfeeding journey.